How's everybody today? Let me wipe this screen off a little bit here. That should be a little bit clearer. Just gonna wait on a few of you to tell this wild story. Truth is, I have a lot of stories about um, when I worked at the gun range. I worked at the gun range for a couple of years, and then I became the manager of the gun range for the next about 5 years. And while working and managing that range, let me tell you, the things that you see at a gun range is 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 wild. The stories that I have are some of them are just totally unbelievable, and this is actually one of them. Um, this is one of those stories where it's like it's almost hard to believe. Like, dead honest, this story is hard to believe. Um, but yeah, I'll just give a little bit of the background, giving people a little bit of time to log on. Um, I worked there from 2006 to 2013, and again, in that time, from 2006 to 2008, was just a very hard-working range officer. Um, I brought a I brought a work ethic that they had never seen before, and I made sure those guns were clean. Those rental guns were cleaned. Before I got there, it wasn't happening. And after I got there, I set the bar, and those guns had to be clean. I would clean about 20 to 30 guns a day, and I got other people to you know start cleaning, start truly cleaning. Um, I enjoy cleaning guns personally. Not everybody does. Actually, most people don't, it seems. But I absolutely love cleaning guns. It's very peaceful to me. So, yeah, 2006 to 2008, and then 2008 to 2013, early 2013 is when I was managing the range. So, this story actually starts before I worked there. Okay, so here's how it starts. Um, it's called Champion Arms, right? I used to, it used to be my main range. I should just go there and do a lot of shooting. And so, one day I went there to go shoot. I believe my cousin Art was with me. I went there to go shoot, just a regular day to go, put some rounds down range. And when I come out the range, we're just kind of, we had rented a gun. I took one of the guns back. I had my own gun as well. And as we're kind of doing that, we just kind of see a little bit of a ruckus going on. So we're just kind of looking back, what the heck is going on? And this guy comes walking out of the range, and he has this odd demeanor. Like his demeanor is like he it's more so how they treated him. They treated him like he was a know-it-all. They treated him like he was the gun guru, right? And he came out of there, my apologies. He came out of there like um man, like something's wrong with the gun, like it was the gun's fault. Um and but he was just kind of like, oh, it happens to the best of us, no big deal type of a thing. And I was slightly lost in what was going on, but then I did see the blood right on his leg. So he had shot himself in the leg. He had shot himself in the leg with a 22. So I'm like, oh wow, talked to him a little bit. Quick second, he just told me what happened or whatever. I stayed around just to watch for a little bit, and then I left. Now, it was no more than 2 months where that I applied to work there, and got the job, started working there. And as I'm working there, I'm learning the ropes, learning how to field strip all the guns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So early on, this was maybe 3 months, maybe longer. Wait a minute. No more than a year. Let's say that. It feels like it was a few months after I was working there, but let's just say no more than a year after I started working there. The same guy comes in. I'm not going to say his name. The same guy walks in and he's like, "Yeah, I'm coming to shoot, whatever." And he had the same demeanor. He had the demeanor like he was gun Jesus, right? Like he was the gun guru. Um, he knew everything about guns. He was just the man when it came to guns. That was his demeanor. And so he comes in, oh yeah, I got my own gun, this, that, and the other. And like he was almost trying to go through the process as if he was trying to teach me how to do my job, type of a deal. So he he goes through the process, whatever, he rents a gun, and then he goes out to shoot. Not too long after that, the guy comes out. I see a little bit of a ruckus in the range again. What's going on? The guy comes out. Hey man, can you call the ambulance? A guy in here just shot himself in the leg. And I thought to myself, wow, that's quite a coincidence. The guy who shot himself in the leg last time is in there. It's, that's the thought in my head. So we call the ambulance. I get a hold of the manager. I'm like, hey, somebody shot himself in the leg. He seems to be okay. Whatever. So I hang up the phone and then I run in there. And when I run in there, to my surprise, it's the same guy. The same guy who shot himself a couple months before I started working at the range. The same guy has shot himself again in the same leg. Same leg. This time with his own gun. And it was a 22. Again, very close to the same spot he shot himself last time. Now, so he comes out of the range. I grabbed a medic kit or whatever. He comes out of the range, and like I want to say it, like so nobody there knows that he had done this before except me, that was in there at the time, right? Um, the owner knew, Maria, she knew about it, but I was the only one in that area at the time that knew that he had done this before. But I didn't want to say anything. I was new, basically, I was fairly new, and the other people who were working there, they weren't aware of it, and so um, it was just like one or two new guys. So anyway, they are over there helping them now. I go back behind the counter to help the rest of the people to get through and get their ammo and rent a lane, et cetera, et cetera. So they're dealing with my apologies. They're dealing with them. And I'm telling, I really want to say something. Like I want to go, dude, didn't you shoot yourself like not too long ago in the same, like, I want to get that out, but I didn't, not at the time. So he ends up going out. So the range is connected to a store, right? So he ends up, and he still has this demeanor like he's still the man. He's still the gun god, gun knowledge god, and it happens to the best of us type deal. He has that demeanor still while he goes into the a gun store to wait for ambulance to come. Hospital's right up the street. And once they are there and they're getting ready to they're like taping him up or taking him out, whatever. Once he leaves, I'm like, okay, timeout. Right? I'm like, timeout. I gather the people who are working there at the time, and I'm like, okay, because I'm gonna tell you something. I remember who was working there the day that he shot himself. Right? We used to call him 10 millimeter Dan. He wasn't there. In fact, he wasn't working there anymore. Um, and I don't know who the manager was in the store, but once he left, I was like, look, that guy shot himself in here before. And they're like, what? And I'm like, he shot himself in here before, not that long ago. Same spot, same caliber. Like, not the exact same spot, but the same leg, right? Like, very close, like, not even a foot away from the other shot. And so they're like, no, no way. And I'm like, they're like, you got to be mistaken. No, same guy, same guy. I promise you. So no BS. This is where it gets crazy. No BS. The guy comes back into the range in the store like a week later, and same demeanor. I'm a know-it-all. Blah blah blah. Whatever. And I will say that he wasn't an asshole, but he just had a demeanor of I know everything about guns. So so when he comes in, he's like, yeah, blah blah blah, having talking with everyone there, and everyone's like, oh yeah, the guy who knows everything about guns, he's so cool. And he's like, hey, I just quit one of my other jobs. I wouldn't mind working here part time. And they're like, oh my God, yes, you're like the perfect person, blah, blah, blah. And they are just in love with wanting to, hire him. And they hire him like virtually on the spot. They hire him. Like he was hired before he even filled out the application. Okay. I'm like, holy crap! Is this? Do these guys are hiring the guy who shot himself twice with the same caliber in virtually the same spot? Now, how did he shoot himself? Okay, here's what he did. So he was under the impression that because he grew up this way, that when you are done shooting, you 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 hold the gun pointing down at the ground. This is what he was doing. Now, our rules are that when you're done shooting, you put the gun on the bench pointed down range. But what he was doing is he would shoot, and then when he would like want to talk, maybe he was teaching someone else in there. And, oh yeah, so this gun it was made in 19. He's one of those guys, right? So when he would pause shooting, he would hold the gun pointing down at the ground. Well, he had his finger in the freaking trigger guard, and while he's talking and speaking and maybe even acting out a little bit, he pulls the trigger and he shoots himself in the leg. And so, like the first time, he was making it like the gun malfunction, the gun had an issue, and it was an accidental discharge type of deal, and that the gun had and the gun wasn't supposed to go off, and it was on safe or whatever. Even if it's on safe, number one, you shouldn't be holding it pointed down while you're inside of an indoor gun range. And number two, you should be pulling the trigger. I don't care if you have the safety on or not. Second time, he comes in, same thing. Same thing, literally. Again, our range rules. Put the gun on the bench, point it down range when you're not using it. We repeat the entire, like all 10 rules to everyone. However, this is what made us start doing that, right? So we would say it to mostly the newer people, but if you were someone that everyone knew and you were a regular, then we wouldn't say it to them. And this changed that. Um, and so the second time he comes in, same thing. He holds the gun, a 22 pistol, and he's holding it pointed down. He thinks it's pointing straight down, but it's pointed towards his leg. And he's talking with somebody and doing his gun Jesus thing, and again pulls the trigger, shoots himself. And you don't have an excuse this time. Somebody who shoots themselves twice in the exact same way, and then you hire him to work at the gun range. Listen to me. When he left, I went to the owner. I said, listen, at the time, both the owners were alive. It was now just one is, but at the time there were two owners. And I went to the both of them. I said, listen, this guy that you guys are hiring, he shot himself twice. And they're like, oh, no, no, no. He shot himself the one time. I understand. I said, no, no, no. He shot himself twice. He shot himself several months back. And they're like, no way. And so the proof comes, right? They ask him. So he comes in like the next day or the day after, whatever. He comes in and they're like, gently asking him about the situation, whatever. And then they're like, um, has that ever happened to you before? And he was like, no, well, yeah, it did, but the first time, like it was the gun's fault. So he's letting them know that this happened before, and they're like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. So this has happened twice, and he kind of gave him this story as if it wasn't as bad as it was, of course, right? Well, based on what I told them and then the reaction they got, they realized what I told was the 100% truth. And, um, they had cameras and whatnot, but they weren't like on a continuous recording for that long. Again, it could have been a year up to a year after. I don't remember exactly how long after that had the first one, but no more than a year. And I just knew they didn't have the recording from the first time. So anyhow, when they found that out, I was on the verge of telling them I'm not working here if he's working here. Or bare minimum, I will not be working here while he's working. Like I'm not doing it. And at the time I didn't have a lot of gun knowledge and blah blah blah. I mean I knew my stuff. I knew a little, but I wasn't not like I am today. Um, I knew more than the average, we'll say that. But this guy thought he was just sugar honey iced tea. And he did know a lot. Like he was a freaking gun knowledge nerd. Like he was that guy. But the problem is with me, if you are unsafe with firearms, your gun knowledge is irrelevant to me. Totally. Right? You're a joke to me. So anyhow, um, he didn't work there that long. They got rid of him once because he was basically already on. And so after I told them what had happened, and then he basically admitted to it, they had to find out a way to go, okay, we don't want him here, in like a nice way, I guess they wanted to do. So within like 2 weeks time, he was no longer working there, and I was glad. Um, and again, that guy was never a hole. I never seen a bad person, like a mean person or I'm better than you type of a personality, but he definitely had the personality of, oh, I'm totally like superior mentally with gun knowledge than all of you. He definitely carried that, like, type of a personality with him. So yeah, yeah. A guy shot himself twice within a year's time, or I guess a year and a half max, um, because it happened 2 months after I was working, before I started working there, approximately. And in the same leg, almost the same spot, same caliber, in the same way. And then they hired him. Okay. So, yeah, crazy story. And that's either the first wild story or it's the second. But the next story that I'm going to tell you guys, and I'll give you a hint, this will be my next live. The next story is the first time we got robbed. Not like somebody breaking in while it's closed. We got robbed while we were open, armed. And I'll tell you that story next time. That one's crazy. Appreciate you. And I'm out.